I would like to call the meeting of the Quincy License Board Commissioners at 4 p.m. on November 10th. And Susan, if you could please call the roll.
Sure. Deputy Chief Bayless?
Present.
Director Duca?
Present.
Commissioner Jones? I saw her. There she is, probably on mute, but we got you, Ruth. And Chair Crispo?
Present.
Thank you.
I will just read into the record the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. In accordance with Governor Charles D. Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, Section 20, the Board of License Commissioners will be convening via remote conferencing services on Tuesday, November 10th at 4 p.m. and this will air on Quincy Access Television, channel QATV 9, Government Access. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any mediums. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. And I'm going to go ahead. We do have a full board here this evening, so I will go ahead on to agenda item number 1. Hearing regarding a change of ownership for the Stop and Shop fuel facility at 450 Southern Artery from Borderline Properties Quincy LLC to the City of Quincy. No change in operation at this time with respect to the existing gasoline managers and self-service licenses. And Joe Shea is here to speak on behalf of the city. Mr. Shea.
Thank you, Ms. Crispo. This project, the city of Quincy has acquired what's commonly called the Stop and Shop gas station in preparation for the land assemblage for the public safety complex between C Street and Broad Street. During that acquisition, it was agreed that Stop and Shop could continue to operate until December 31st of this year. So an extra 2 months of operation. However, we wanted to come before the board to ensure that the board was aware that the city now owns the property, but Stop and Shop's existing manager, existing self-serve license will stay in operation until December 31st. What the city has put in place is we've taken Larry Lavassier, who is a city employee. He is listed as the competent operator of the city's fueling depot on C Street. And Larry is now involved with me in overseeing the operation of the gas station with our tenant, effectively, which is Stop and Shop and Borderline.
Thank you very much, Joe. And I also want to mention for the record that Councilor McCarthy did reach out. He was notified and is in favor of the change of ownership. And I would also like to offer any questions, comments, concerns to people here in the Zoom meeting. Anyone have any comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none. Looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion regarding the change in ownership of the Stop and Shop fuel facility at 450 Southern Artery from Borderline Properties Quincy LLC to the City of Quincy. No change in operations with respect to existing gasoline managers and self-service licenses represented by Joe Shea and Larry Lavassier.
Second on the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All set, Joe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Hi, Joe.
Second on the agenda is hearing regarding the request of Sushi Time for a common victualler license for the premise located between 9 and 15 Vernon Street. Existing catering business is now being expanded to include retail sales as well as expansion to the adjacent building. Proposed manager Dwayne Law. Proposed hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. And Dwayne, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Hi, Dwayne. How are you? Why don't you
Good, thank
tell us a little bit about what's going to happen there at Sushi Time?
Yeah, basically, I was doing the wholesale and catering before the pandemic. At this time, current time, most of the office people, they work from home. So all my account from the corporate already, almost stopped or non-ordering. So for me to sustain in business, then I need to open some retail to help out for my rent. And the next door adjacent is the cook food prep, normally designed for catering hotel also, because of this pandemic. I just want to see if I can do something retail so can help out the business to stay.
Okay, great. Does anybody in the audience have any questions, concerns for a common victualler license at the premise located at 9 through 15 Vernon Street, used right now for Sushi Time? Seeing none, looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the request of Sushi Time for common victualler license for the premises located at 9-15 Vernon Street. Existing catering business is being expanded to include retail sales as well as expansion into the adjacent building. Proposed manager is Dwayne Law. Proposed hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week, represented by Dwayne Law.
Second on the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dwayne, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
On to agenda item number 3, hearing regarding the request of Coffee Break Cafe for a common victualler license for the premise located at 479 Washington Street. Proposed manager is Donald Orman. Proposed hours of operation are 5:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. And I see Donald and Jen here. Hello to you both.
Hi.
And congratulations on another venture here.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Well, we've been in business for almost 25 years now, 24 3/4 years. And we sell coffee to as many people that would have it. And we also do some small prepackaged items to go, and we have bagels. And we keep it pretty simple. And we've been doing the same thing for quite a while now. And we seem to have, found our niche.
Thank you. And you'll be over in that new strip mall over there with is it a Verizon and Jersey Mike's?
Yep.
Over there, yeah. And for the record, I did hear from Councilor Kroll, and he is in favor of a Coffee Break Cafe at that location. Any questions or concerns from anybody on the Zoom call? Seeing none, looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the request of Coffee Break Cafe for a common victualler license for the premises located at 479 Washington Street. Proposed manager, Donald Orman. Proposed operation, 5:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week, represented by Donald Orman.
Second on the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're all set. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
Agenda item number 4, hearing regarding the request of Uma Kulad LLC doing business as Subway for a common victualler license at the premise located at 301 Falls Boulevard. This request is due to a change in ownership at the Subway franchise at Walmart. No other operational changes are planned. Ashai Soni?
Yes. Good
Hi,
evening.
how are you?
Hi.
Why don't you tell us a little bit of what's going on there at the subway at Walmart?
I own Subway right now in the New York, and I was told by the DA office, because the same DA office which is in New York and Boston, and they told me that this Subway used to do really good. Used to do 10,000 a week. Right after the pandemic, it doesn't do that good. It does only 4,000 a week, and they know that I can do it better. They were planning to close it, but I told them not to close it. I will buy it. I can run it. I can do it better. So everything is staying same. The staff is staying same. Only they're going to work under my guidance, and just.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have hours of operation there? What are the hours of operation there?
It's going to be 8 a.m. till 10 p.m.
8 a.m. to 10 p. Okay. Do we have any questions or concerns from anybody on the Zoom call? Seeing none, looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the request of Uma Kodal, LLC, DBA Subway, for a common victualler license for the premises located at 301 Falls Boulevard. The request is due to a change in ownership of the Subway franchise within the Walmart. No other operational changes are planned. Hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., represented by Ashil Soni.
Second on the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Good luck.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5, hearing regarding the request of Seaglass Motors for a Motor 2 license for the premise located at 500 Victory Road. Request for 5 vehicles. Proposed manager is Kevin Copian. Excuse me, Copian.
Yeah.
Thank you. And represented by Walter Hannon. Before I ask you, I just want to let you know that I did hear from Councilor Harris. He has not received any emails or calls in opposition. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what's going to go on there at 500 Victory Road?
Sure. As described, essentially a section of the parking lot with 5 reserved spaces, and essentially used car sales, and it'll be a place where I keep inventory and by appointment meet with customers.
Okay, so that's by appointment only. There.
Yeah, well, the cars will be visible, obviously, to anyone passing the parking lot, but yes, there'll be a sign with a number to contact for an appointment.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from anybody on this Zoom call? Seeing none.
Nicole, I have a question. So I just a question about signage. What do you propose for signage out there?
The spots will be marked with a reserved and a brand name, Seaglass Motors, and there's likely a small sign below the address plate on that corner of the building, just to denote how to contact.
Would you just come in and apply for a sign permit? Anything that's going on the building, so we can have a look at it to approve it. Thank you.
So essentially, you're just taking 5 parking spaces and assigning them to this to your business, and basically that's it.
Yes, I have yes.
So there'll be no repairs or anything like that on that location. Just parking spaces for 5 cars.
Correct.
Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, as far as the sign permit, you can actually just go online, go to the city website. You can apply for the sign permit online and just submit a sketch, and we can process that very quickly.
Okay, that's great. There's a sign requirement with the state license, so I'll just meet those 2 up and then design something and submit that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Seeing looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the request of Seaglass Motors for a Motor 2 license for the premises located at 500 Victory Road. Request is for 5 vehicles. Proposed manager is Kevin Koppinen, represented by Kevin Koppinen.
Second on the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
All set. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Agenda item number 6, hearing regarding the request of the Finest Auto Sales LLC for a Motor 2 license for the premise located at 519 Quincy Ave, formerly known as N&S Auto Sales, request for 44 vehicles. And this is Alvin Cazal. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, everybody. How are you doing?
Very good. Why don't you tell us what your plans are for Finest Auto Sales at 519 Quincy Ave?
Currently, I possess an auction access ID, whereby by the law, I'm required to buy cars and sell. But I've been having difficulties with getting a very nice place where I'm able to run a very good business with high quality cars to serve the state and to serve the citizens in general. So I so happened I used to live on Presidential Drive, and then when an opening at 519 Quincy Ave opened up, I met with the owner, Mr. Steven, over there, and he notified me about the availability of the position to have to sell. Basically, what I'll be doing, I'll be selling pre-owned cars, and my hours of operation, I'm targeting for 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So everything is staying the same. The management and ownership, of course, is going to be different. I'm not planning to make any changes as far as the previous ownership that was prior to the business.
Okay, you broke up with your hours of operation. I didn't hear them clearly. Could you just say that again?
I'm planning to operate from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns from anybody in the audience? Seeing none, looking for a motion.
I had a question, Nicole.
Yep. Go ahead, Jim.
Is this the, which facility is this? Is that at the corner of?
That's at the corner of Valvoline. Valvoline 59. It's right at the corner of Valvoline.
Okay, and what was there before? What's there? What is there?
It was N&S Auto Sales, Jay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And how many vehicles were there prior?
They're under the ordinance. They're permitted at 44 at 300 square feet per vehicle.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
We all set?
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the request of Finest Auto Sales LLC for a Motor 2 license for the premises located at 519 Quincy Ave, formerly N&S Auto Sales. The request is for 44 vehicles, hours of operation 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, represented by Alvin Cazal.
Thank you so much.
Alvin, just on a side note, make sure that you have 4 employee parking spaces as well.
4 employee parking spaces. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The motion? Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7, Popeyes Chicken has been continued until December 8th at the request of Councilor McCarthy. He has been in contact with the management there, and they were all in agreement to continue until December 8th. So we will move on from that and go right to agenda item number 8, hearing to review ongoing violations of the state-phased reopening plan, COVID-19 violations at the Crack Pub at 536 Washington Street. owner and operator Stephen Kelly is here. We are here to speak about the violations that have occurred there since the pandemic has begun. And this is in regards to the Crack Pub at 536 Washington Street. I will now turn it over to Ruth Jones from the Health Department. Commissioner Jones, if you could please fill us in on the complaints to date.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Mr. Kelly.
Good evening, ma'am. I don't know if you can hear me or not. This is my first time doing this.
Yep, we can hear you fine. Thank you. So, Madam Chair and members of the licensing board, from the beginning of COVID-19, the Health Department has been mandated to follow up on COVID-19 complaints. And as COVID-19 orders have been instituted by the governor and the Mass Department of Public Health, we have been mandated to follow up on any complaints on those orders and also to ticket on violations of those orders. From the beginning, starting way back in August of 2020, we had issues with the Crack Pub. Beginning in August of 2020 with entertainment issues, Mr. Kelly originally did not have a temporary extension of premise. We noticed that on its own, a temporary extension of premise came up. He did not have the permits originally to do that. He did not apply for a temporary extension of premise in the beginning. We have made numerous visits to the Crack Pub, starting in August all the way through October, for multiple complaints regarding illegal entertainment, whether it be indoor or outdoor. We have worked with Mr. Kelly as the COVID-19 regulations had changed and bars were able to change their purpose and become a restaurant to maintain being open. The Health Department worked closely with Mr. Kelly to help him to become not just a bar, but to become a restaurant, with licensing, with helping him with what he needed to do in the facility to become a restaurant, be able to serve food and stay open. And we understand the difficulty food establishments have been going through throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. But these issues started back in August and continued all the way through October. We have issued multiple complaints and violations. We have ticketed Mr. Kelly twice for COVID-19 violations. We also had got some correspondence from the chief investigator for the Department of Alcohol, Beverages, and Control Commission at the state, where they went in on Wednesday, October 21st. And this is after multiple complaints from the Health Department had been issued to Mr. Kelly, and they found several violations of COVID-19, of the COVID-19 guidelines. And so he was cited, Mr. Kelly was cited by ABCC. There are also several issues that Lieutenant Turowski has had with the Crack Pub. And I think Lieutenant Turowski is here and may want to, if he is here, may want to speak to those on his own. And so I'll let Lieutenant Turowski finish that. And then I'd like to talk a little bit more.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good afternoon, Chairwoman, members of the board. I had written actually 3 different reports to my boss, Chief Keenan, regarding the Crack Pub. And I'll read the first one, which is dated July 13th of 2020. And it started off with, Sir, on June 16th, I was forwarded an email from a named individual from Detective Mark Folan. This email stated that last night, which would have been Sunday, June 14th, this person witnessed a person coming out of the crack pub stumbling all over the place. This person was observed going in and out of the bar several times via the back door. At this time, the person wrote that it believed bars are not allowed to be open unless they serve food, which were the rules at the time. This person also stated that the windows were boarded up and that some posts are out by the back door with a lot of loose wood on the ground. It also observed young kids playing on this wood, which it felt it would be a safety concern. Crack Pub has been building an outside patio without the proper permit since last fall. By the description given, it's obvious that it's referring to the Crack Pub located at the corner of Washington and Shaw Street. I have been making spot checks at this location over the past several weeks in regards to this email. Oftentimes, I would see numerous cars parked by the corner of Washington and Shaw Street, as well as cars parking in the St. Joseph's Church parking lot. At this time, the front doors were boarded up, and the front windows were boarded up, and the front door is a solid door with no window, as well as the back door, which is solid as well. So you cannot see inside the establishment. So on Wednesday, July 1st, 2020, at approximately 20:55 hours, I observed 7 motor vehicles parked by the Crack Pub. Several were parked in the church parking lot, and several were parked on Shaw Street on the same side as the Crack Pub. I parked in the church parking lot as well. I walked up to the Crack Pub's front door and found it to be locked. The 4 front windows were no longer boarded up, but it appeared at a glance that the inside of the bar was in darkness. Until I looked a little closer, I could see a glimmer of light through one of the front windows. This was due to there being a small crack in a black covering or curtains that were now covering the 4 windows so you could not see inside. To me, this was deliberately done so as no one could see inside. The closer I looked, I could see through a slit in the material the owner, Stephen Kelly, sitting at the far end of the bar along with 2 females and 2 males. I could see that they were all consuming bottles of beer. If it was not for me peering through the cracks in the black window coverings up close, I would have thought the pub was in darkness. I then walked to the rear of the building and pulled on the back door knob. I found that it was unlocked, and I walked in. As I approached the bar, I asked the owner, Stephen Kelly, who eventually saw me why he and the other 2 couples were sitting at the bar consuming alcohol. He replied, "These are all my employees, and we are having a meeting. Mind you, it's almost 9 p.m. I then said to him, "These are all your bartenders?" And he said, "Yes." I personally did not recognize any of them as being his bartenders. He then went on to tell me he plans on opening up next week. I informed him that as per Governor Baker's COVID-19 order, no one is allowed to sit at a bar and consume alcohol at this time. I told them that they should sit at a table. I then exited out the same rear door and then went and made an inspection next door at Coop's Bar and Grill. As I left Coop's and walked past the front door of the Crack Pub, I stopped to take a peek once again through the cracks in the black window covering. Mind you, it is now 9:07 p.m. Again, I observed the same scenario with the owner and the 2 couples still seated at the bar consuming alcohol. Again, I walked to the rear of the building and pulled on the back door knob. I found the back door to now have been locked with people inside. I then knocked very rigorously on the rear door and got no response. I then crossed Shaw Street and was about to re-enter my unmarked cruiser when I observed the rear door open. I then walked to the back of to the rear door and encountered the owner, Stephen Kelly, once again. I asked him what he thought he was doing. I asked him why people were still sitting at the bar consuming alcohol when I had just got through telling him he couldn't do it 10 minutes ago. He replied, "They are going to be leaving." It is quite clear to me that Mr. Kelly thinks that the rules don't apply to him, nor should he abide by them as all other businesses have to do during this pandemic. I am requesting that Stephen Kelly, the owner of the manager of record of the Crack Pub, be brought before the licensing board to answer the following complaints. 1, being in violation of Governor Baker's COVID-19 order, which states that no one is allowed this time to be seated and served alcohol at a bar. They must be seated and at a table. Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 63A, hindering or delaying an investigator, which states that any person who hinders, delays, refuses to provide information, or refuses to entrance to an ABCC investigator or an authorized agent of the local licensing authority will be in violation of this chapter and section. It is quite apparent to this officer that the black coverings covering Overall, the front windows was placed there to hinder law enforcement and city officials from being able to see inside as to the violations that were taking place inside this establishment. Patrons sitting at the bar while consuming alcohol and being open at a time when bars were not allowed to be open. The third violation was 527 CMR 1.00, section 4.4311, which states failure to maintain a free and unobstructed means of egress in an occupied building or structure is a public safety violation. And the fourth violation was 527 CMR 1.00, section 4.4.3.1.2, which states that use of a lock or fastening that prevents free escape from inside a building is a public safety violation. Violations 3 and 4 are a result of not having a push bar on the rear door and having the door locked with a deadbolt while patrons were inside. That was what happened on July 1st, and report was filed to the chief, and that's where we are now.
It does not have the best interests of a woman at heart. It endangers our
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I add one more thing to that?
You may.
Thank you. Lieutenant Turowski also followed up, as did my inspectors, after the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission it issued a notice of warning to Mr. Kelly on October 21st, at which time they found several, like I said before, several violations, not only of mask violation, but seated at a table by the bar, that people were standing, not sitting. People were standing on the patio, not sitting. Several people not wearing masks while Mr. Kelly was seated at a table by the bar, observing the whole thing, and nothing had been done about it. Lieutenant Turowski, as well as my inspectors, went after that inspection by the ABCC, at which time that they warned Mr. Kelly that any future violations of any executive order of the Commonwealth sector specific workplace safety standards for restaurants could result in a hearing before the commission where his alcohol beverage license could be suspended or revoked. Two incidences after that, one where my inspectors went down and one where Lieutenant Turowski went down on Halloween, October 31st, and has a written report that was submitted to me where the establishment was crowded. There were about 35 to 40 patrons. They were seated shoulder to shoulder, that a lot of people didn't have masks on. The tables weren't 6 feet apart. So again, even after ABCC went in there, multiple months of the health department warning Mr. Kelly, giving Mr. Kelly written information of what he needed to do. Even after ABCC was in there, Mr. Kelly disregarded any of the information that we had given him, any of the warnings that we had given him, and continued to put the city at risk with the violations of COVID-19 orders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, I am going to give you an opportunity to speak on your behalf here at this license board hearing. Do know that we are talking about your establishment. You are the owner, you are the operator, and we're going to keep to that what's on the agenda, okay?
Yes.
And I know that you have been properly notified of all these violations dating back to July.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to start with the July violation. At the time, Lieutenant Turowski did knock on my back door. My windows were boarded up. At the time, there was during the Black Lives Matter protest in the city, a lot of the buildings were boarded up. The protest was supposed to come down Washington Street, from what I was told by a local PD. I was in the process of, during lockdown, of trying to clean and renovate the bar as much as possible as COVID regulations kept changing. Mr. Turowski did come in that evening, knocked on the door. I did have my personnel with me. I was sitting at the corner of the bar. I did not think of it as violating a COVID regulation. I was not open to the public. I did not open it up to the public, ma'am, to about mid-August. And then I was open and closed. It seemed like a week open. As the state changed, I had to change with it. I did have a couple little blips on my end. I was dealing with Mrs. Jones. She's been very good to me. When things I thought I had done, maybe that weren't done, and I tried to rectify everything as much as possible. I have a company from the state that comes in and defogs the bar for me twice a week. It's good for a month. It's like it's their version of an industrial Lysol. I take the situation at the bar very serious and very personal to me. The health department has been in multiple times. I assume, like everyone else, they have gone to the fact of like checking my basement, asking me why there are cars in the parking lots. These are the questions I don't have answers for. On the state ABC situation, they did come in. They did see two individuals, as they told me, standing outside smoking. One was in the patio, one was outside the patio. They said if anyone's inside, they should be sitting. I said I try to stay on top of things as much as possible. He said he got I might use the term incorrectly, anonymous phone call that someone may or may not have a mask on. I said I'm here 7 days a week. Like everyone else, we're struggling to stay alive and stay open. I have done everything that I believe the city has asked me to. On the state ABC, they didn't give me a written violation. They asked me to stay on top of things. I said I would. On the Halloween situation that Lieutenant Tarowski came in, I had a doorman working the back, and I was sitting on a stool inside, making sure that everybody was sitting, masked on. I've dealt with the health department like everyone else through this whole time. They've told me time and time again how they want everyone to be sitting, no one standing. I've stayed on top of that as much as possible. I don't agree with Lieutenant Tarowski's report that no one had a mask on. I find that kind of insulting to myself personally. I take great pride in what I do here. I've got a lot of compliments from the neighborhood and the church themselves of what I've done here in the last 2 years. How I've improved even just the neighborhood in the points here. Halloween, I was not overcrowded. The lieutenant did ask me to move a table. And I said it might have been moved through the course of the night. There was a couple finishing. I said, as soon as they finish, can I move that table? He said, sure. I moved the table, spaced everything out. And he said he'd be back later on that night. And that was the end of that situation. The health department had asked me about people coming and people going they see like my back door. I've complained. People have heard complaints about noise and music of that nature. I have been complaining to Lieutenant Tarowski for the last 2 years since I've been open, ma'am. The building department was finally here with the fire department, the head of the fire, the Asian gentleman, I forget his name, but it wasn't for me, it's for the warehouse behind me. It turns out these boys have been doing after-hour parties and rages and everything else, and the problem is for me, and I guess it has been since I've been in operations, if anybody hears any noise or of any situation, I am obviously the first one to blame. People coming and going from the back of my building. There's 2 apartments above me. How many people live upstairs above those apartments, ma'am? I don't know. I have no control of that. I run a good place. I've worked law enforcement my whole life. I take I am on top of people, mass cleanliness. I do as much as I can to go above and beyond to keep people feeling safe, and I think I've accomplished that. But the Halloween incident, how I was overly crowded and nobody had masks on and people were inches from that, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I have tables. People are sitting at them. People have masks on. And I mean, do occasion maybe somebody slip from my vision? It might happen, yes. And as soon as I see anything, I address it immediately. And if people have a problem with wearing a mask in the bar, I tell them they can go somewhere else. That has been my issue.
How many people were in your bar that night?
On Halloween, sir?
Yes.
Between inside and outside, as people go in and out, I would say maybe 30, maybe.
What's your capacity inside?
Prior to this?
Yes.
I believe my license says 70.
So you were at 50% capacity that night?
I don't believe I even was, to be honest with you.
Well, I believe that's
between people, I'm counting people inside and people outside, sir.
Isn't that what Lieutenant Tarowski said?
How I took his report, it sounded like he was considering only inside.
And there were only 30 people. There were 30 people inside and outside, is what you're trying to tell me?
I do not have an exact count. Once my tables are full, I've had the health department in. They've checked my tables over and over again. The whole deal with Ms. Jones brought up music. As situations have changed since this virus has started and things have changed on a day-to-day basis with us, I obviously put in a small kitchen, thankfully, to the city of Quincy. At the time, prior to that, around that area between late August, early September, we were allowed to do indoor music. I was reaching out to musicians I've used in the past. Once I was able to open up the kitchen, that inside music situation changed. So I obviously canceled all that.
You were told about that, though, right?
Yes, yes, I was. I wasn't told.
Did you have karaoke scheduled? Did you have karaoke scheduled?
No. The only time I had karaoke scheduled at the top of my head, Mr. Duker, is maybe when I first opened up in August. And the health department told me we were allowed to do indoor music like 25 feet from where a performer was to where a nearest table was. The health department came in, measured my situation, and told me it was all set. Something changed from when that was supposed to happen to whatever Governor Baker's reports came out. It was then not allowed from what I understand. I was called by the health department, told me that it was not allowed. I canceled it. I have not done music or anything since then.
Did you schedule a comedy night?
No, I did not schedule a comedy night.
There was no comedy night ever scheduled? So the information that I received in the brochure that was presented to me on Facebook wasn't accurate?
No. The flyer that I saw, that I was showed, friends of mine back before the virus, I was contemplating doing a comedy night. Mr. Baker allowed tables of 10 in the last month. They asked if they could come in, sit at a large table, and practice their jokes or with each other at a table. I said, okay. It wasn't entertainment. There was no microphone. There was no speaker used. People weren't here for it. They sat at a table. I have one table inside for 10. They sat in there and practiced their jokes amongst each other. But I have not had entertainment. I have not had anything else since we have not been allowed to.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble here. I'm finding some of your responses a little implausible.
As am I, Chief Keenan, because I actually have some pictures from social media that were dating back, to September, where Mason Smith hosted the first weekly crack comedy show last night. What a great show and turnout. Come next Thursday for another great lineup. And there's a picture of a gentleman performing on your deck, your temporary extension of premises that doesn't allow entertainment, which you signed off on that temporary extension, which very explicitly explains you cannot have entertainment on a temporary extension of premises. We have dealt with you a number of times with people bringing in, my inspectors have walked in and people are bringing in speakers and my inspectors come in and all of a sudden, oh, no, we're not going to have entertainment. We have gotten multiple complaints of karaoke, entertainment.
I've never had karaoke on.
We have talked to you a number of times about not having any entertainment inside, including your so-called comedian friends that are going to sit and just tell jokes to each other at a table. I'm not buying that or any of this for a moment, Mr. Kelly.
Okay, no, I'll agree to disagree, but I have not had any entertainment at the pub there. Your health department has been in multiple times. They've checked my basement for whatever reasons. I don't know why. They've said they think I'm doing something in my basement. My basement is about the size of my Jeep. And they've questioned me about cars in the parking lot. Well, once again, as Lieutenant Trotsky mentioned, the parking lot belongs to the church. The parking lot is not mine. The church graciously lets everyone park in that parking lot. But on that note, he's asked me about people coming and people going through like the back door. I said there's apartments above me. How many people live above those apartments, in those apartments, and how they come and go has nothing to do with me, unfortunately. I have not yet. The health department has come in, like I said before, many times on a routine basis. They come in, they ask me a couple of questions, I answer them, and that seems to be the end of the night. I haven't had any really major complaints other than the Halloween situation, which I disagree about completely.
Madam Chairwoman, can I read a report regarding entertainment that I filed to the chief on September 8th?
Yes, please.
Okay. I received a text from our health commissioner, Ruth Jones, on Friday, September 4th at 1:23 p.m. The text read as follows. Good afternoon. The crack can now open. He is aware. No entertainment indoors or out on the patio. So on Sunday, September 6th, 2020 at 10:10 p.m., I stopped in the crack pub to make a routine inspection. I parked on Shaw Street and observed approximately 10 patrons sitting at several tables in the outside patio. Tables were properly spaced and patrons were seated. I then walked around to the front of the establishment. I observed that the front windows were still covered up so as you cannot see inside the establishment. I then entered via the front door. Upon entry, I observed approximately 15 patrons. Most were standing and they were not practicing social distancing. I observed a guitar player about halfway down the bar and sitting on a chair against the outside wall across from the bar. Patrons were within just 2 feet of the guitar player, and anyone that walks by the bar has to walk past the guitar player sitting there, and there was not enough room for social distancing as currently required. I then asked a male, whose name was unknown, behind the bar if the owner, Stephen Kelly, was present. He stated he was, and then he would get him. Stephen approached me. I advised him that I was told by the health commissioner, Ruth Jones, that he was not allowed to have entertainment inside or out on the patio. He responded, yes, I can. That was changed last Friday. I then told him that I was told last Friday via text message from Ruth Jones that he couldn't have any entertainment inside or out. I then pulled up the text message on my cell phone and let him read the text himself. He then replied, well, he's done. He's all done for the night. Mr. Kelly continuously fails to adhere to the rules and regulations that have been put in place regarding the COVID-19. That was an incident where I personally viewed with my own eyes a guitar player inside his establishment when there was not supposed to be any entertainment.
Thank you, Lieutenant Turowski.
On that, if I could answer that, ma'am.
Yep.
On that note, September 8th, I believe the week prior, at the top of my head, music was being allowed at one point inside, and for whatever reason, ma'am, state laws didn't change within a couple of days. I did cancel whatever I had planned. When Lieutenant Turowski came in, the windows he's talking about, I just have shades, like curtains, like nothing trying to hide anything. They're just curtains. There's nothing, being sneaky about what I'm trying to do. The gentleman that he is talking about, I believe, is what they would call a J1er to the Irish. They come over 3-4 months. This individual had all his bags with him, and I believe his guitar might have been with him. And we were driving him to the airport that night. He was originally scheduled to play. I told him things have changed in the state. We were not allowed to do any indoor or outdoor music until things changed with the state. I have tried to follow every COVID regulation that the state has, and what I've been told I can and cannot do.
Lieutenant Sarowski, was he playing that guitar?
He had just finished the song when I was coming in the door, and then when I came in, he wasn't playing. He had the guitar on his lap, and he was sitting on the chair against the wall. He was playing prior to me entering. I could hear him out front.
So, Mr. Kelly, you're saying he wasn't playing that night? He was just there with his bags, ready to go to the airport?
He did have his bags with him. I believe he probably had his guitar, sir. There were a few of his friends with him. This was his last night in the States before flying back to Ireland. Were they maybe singing at a table?
Were they singing at the table with the 10 comedians? The table of 10 for the comedians too?
That was a whole different thing.
After Mr. Kelly read on my cell phone the text that I received from Ruth Jones, he then replied, "Well, he's all done for the night." He was well aware he was playing guitar in his bar.
Mr. Kelly.
Hello.
Hi. It sounds like, the city has really been trying to work with you, going above and beyond, making sure that your kitchen was set up and making sure that you got the correct permits that you needed. After you started the outdoor patio, you came in and talked to me personally, and I told you what you needed to do to get that patio started, and you just went and started it anyway. And that's where, it seems like it all started. We want to be friendly. We want to be a good, city host to you and to your business here. But you need to follow the guidelines and the rules of the COVID-19 first and foremost.
I agree with you completely, ma'am. And I have tried
Kelly,
to.
Please let me, Mr. Kelly, please let me talk, because I certainly let you. And the workplace safety and the standards that are set up are for your employees and for the people that are walking by, to go to your bar to get drinks for the patrons sitting down at the table. And I'm sure that you're not hearing what we're saying right now. That I'm not hearing that you're getting the notion that you were not in compliance, and that worries me going forward. I hope that you'll really take a look at this and change, because I think that you could have a nice little neighborhood restaurant there, and like you say, work with the community there, work with the church, but you have to work with the city as well, and first the COVID guidelines. So I'm going to send it back to Ruth Jones. Ruth, I know you had a follow-up. Thank you.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. So in lieu of everything that we've talked about, all the violations, pretty much I feel the same way, Madam Chair, that I don't think Mr. Kelly, for lack of a better term, owns up to issues that have gone on there. And I think that this type of activity, when we're in the middle of a pandemic, when our cases, particularly now, are going up in the community, I think Mr. Kelly is putting the community and his employees at risk. And in light of all of that, I would like to recommend a suspension of Mr. Kelly's license for 3 days because of violation of COVID-19 orders.
Is that a motion, Ruthie?
I'm sorry, yes. I'll make a motion to, yes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I do see one person here in the audience that would like to make a comment. Please state your name for the record and your address, please. John. Yes.
Phil, you talking to me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. John Rotherfield, 62 Grenwall. I wanted to speak on one earlier, too. There's been a couple previous meetings in the past before, so we got to really check on when someone does raise their hand to let me have my opportunity to speak. Typically, what I say really isn't important, so, but sometimes it is. I feel right now, this time it is important. And, you know, I'm going to just say to you, Mr. Kelly, I thank you for doing business in the city of Quincy. We need people to come to the city of Quincy. From watching this, I want to let you know, me as a citizen, I kind of feel like, you know, you're a businessman. You're not a criminal. And this is not a criminal trial. And, you know, it seems like I'm thinking of like 1984 and Big Brother and like neighbors ratting on each other and stuff. And I don't like that. I want equal treatment. I want everyone treated the same. I want everyone treated fairly. I can tell from watching Mr. Kelly, I can't stand COVID rules either. If I had owned the business, they would drive me crazy. And it's just, you know, it's obvious that, you know, when someone has to go through so many hoops and have to go jump over so many obstacles that you put in front of somebody, it gets them very frustrated. I would like to see, you know, it go right down to ground zero where we forget everything that happened in the past and let's give Mr. Kelly a fair chance to prove that he understands what was going on. And, you know, let's basically, you know, because I could take my camera around and I don't want to do that. I could go around and I could find violations everywhere.
John, excuse me. We are talking about one specific violator today, okay? We will handle each case as it comes. But right now, we are not going to do that. We're not going there. We're not going off subject here.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
I understand. But all I'm saying is that at my social club, at the Torre de Pazzi on Washington Street, which is right near there, they're paranoid to do anything. They're very scared. I mean, we go there, I understand. We're basically not open, basically like at all anymore because of the COVID. And we might go out of business because of it. And it's just an economic thing. I'm not sure if Mr. Kelly is still forced to pay his landlord every month, but bills have to be paid. And he's just trying to do business. And I know it's very tough. And I just feel like I watch a lot of these meetings and I have the video of them over the last 5 years, so I can prove everything that I'm stating. And what I'm stating is that I see very few times that, you know, there's only a few establishments that I see this happen to. I don't know what Mr. Kelly, what you've done to anger people, but you've angered people. And, you know, and I just wish both parties would take a step back, and I just want everybody to get along. I love Quincy. We need businesses. I don't want more apartments there. We need good stuff in the city. So, I mean, I'm here saying that, like, I'm actually against. But the bottom line is you know, I mean, I think this board does a fabulous job with thing. Ruth, she does a fabulous job. I mean, everyone does a great job and stuff. But the problem is, you know, I haven't been paying attention. You know, the only thing I'm thinking of is the shaking crab. It's the last thing I saw, and the shaking crab fixed things. So, Mr. Kelly, just try to fix things. And, you know, if they say you have to do something, you have to do it. You know, rules are rules, whether you like them or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Motion made and seconded. Can I please get a roll call vote?
Deputy Chief, sorry.
I'm sorry. Am I allowed to make a final statement by
Sure.
or is that acceptable?
Mr. Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I have worked with the city since this all has began. Everyone has been very good to me. I may have made a little mistake here and there, I have done everything I can to improve the pub and the point. I take very serious the COVID regulations. Like I said, my pub is extremely clean. You could basically lick the floors. I have state issue guys come in and defog the whole building twice a week, even though it's only good though it's good for a month. I am all over everybody for about masks and sitting and everything else because I do disagree. I take this very serious. I mean, this is affecting my livelihood, man. I've been closed since March, so to say that I'm not taking this serious, I mean, this is a heartbreaking situation for small business owners. So to say that I don't care about these situations or I'm trying to put people at risk, I take that personal.
Well, I look what's before me, Mr. Kelly, and I see that, the resources that the city has put into coming down in the ABCC, and I have a letter here from the ABCC. If you didn't get a copy of it, I can certainly provide you with one. But what we're seeing here is violations, and if you think it's one little slip up, and one little slip up, how many times can we do this, is putting other people at risk. If they go home
I completely agree
and they
with that.
have elderly parents or they have, children, and we have to be diligent in our efforts here. And that's first and foremost. So
I completely agree with you. And that's why I have done, I think I've gone above and beyond cleaning regulations for the state. Like I said, I am on top of every patron in here about sitting and mask use. Does someone maybe slip my eye on a rare occasion? It probably does happen, like it happens everywhere. And as soon as I notice it, I address it right away. Like I said, I try to have a clean, healthy place for myself. I have young children. I have my mother and the thing are older. Like I said, this is very personal to me. And but to tell me that I'm not considerate, that the state ABC came in, they said they got a unanimous report that someone thinks they saw that, and someone thinks they saw this. I think it's kind of hard to find somebody or close somebody during these situations without actual maybe a picture of people doing blatant things.
When the state came down after they got that unanimous
I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't hear you a little bit. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
When the state came down after getting that phone call or complaint, they also found 4 different infractions.
I know they told me of 2.
So,
they told me of my bartender not having the mask.
That's right.
Fully covering his face, I believe.
Yep.
I addressed it. And there was like I said, there was an individual outside of the patio area smoking and an individual inside the patio smoking. He goes, if anybody is sitting in the patio, they have to be sitting. I said, I'm aware of that. I said, sometimes, unfortunately, some people slip my view.
Maybe you need to get some more people there to help you with your view.
I normally, ma'am, if I think, I mean, these current situations now that we have to close earlier, have changed everything for everybody, especially myself. It makes a harder situation harder. But if on the weekends or if anything, that if I'm gonna, not that I'm gonna be busy, but if I'm gonna have anything, I usually have someone work the back door for me. I'm usually roaming around inside the bar all the time. I'm either sitting or standing. I'm disabled myself. I retired from the correction sports disabled. So that's why you might see me sitting or standing most of the time. But I am interacting and dealing with customers and on a day-to-day basis, cleaning and telling them regulations. And I think most people know. Do some, like I said, does it slip on a rare occasion? Yes. Am I blatantly allowing people to do whatever they want to do? No, ma'am, I wouldn't. And that has never happened. That has never happened in here. Does a rare occasion someone take their mask off for a second? Someone may be standing for a second? That probably does happen. And if I notice it, I address it right away.
Madam Chair,
just like everyone else, I'm trying to do business.
If I can just make a quick response to Mr. Kelly for basically insinuating that these are non-valid complaints that you're being either ticketed for. Do not ticket at the health department unless we can substantiate the complaint. We've ticketed you twice. The police department does not write up reports unless they validate what they're seeing. I've gotten 2 to 3 reports from Lieutenant Turowski that have validated these situations. The ABCC, it wasn't just people on the patio smoking. It was 4 individuals in the patio standing and drinking alcoholic beverages. It was a bartender with the mask down for a short period of time talking to a male patron at the bar. It was investigators observed the bartender serving an alcoholic beverage to a man who walked up to the bar, all in violation of COVID-19 regulations. I have social media pictures of entertainment. My inspectors have seen you with speakers, setting up speakers. As far as saying that you're a victim of circumstances and these are not valid, that's not true. And so I'm
not saying I'm a victim by any stretch of the man, Ms. Jones.
Excuse me, Mr. Kelly, I'm talking. I would stick with my my motion to the original motion that's on the table right now, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Susan, would you please call the roll?
Yep. Deputy Chief Bayless.
Aye.
That's yay in favor of the motion?
Yay.
Yay.
That's correct.
Director Duca?
You're on mute.
Director Duca?
Yay, I support the motion.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chief Keenan?
Yes, I support the motion.
Chair Crispo?
Yes, I support the motion.
5 in favor.
Mr. Kelly, you will be getting a letter regarding the motion and the vote here today. You can appeal it to the ABCC within 5 days of receiving the letter, and we will be sure to go from there once you get the letter. And that is all for the regular agenda this evening.
Excuse me, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Are we going to set the dates now, or is that going to be determined in the...
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You're right. Back to Commissioner Jones for the dates that you wish.
So the dates will be set for December 3rd, that's a Thursday, December 4th, which is a Friday, December 5th, which is a Saturday.
Okay, that'll give us plenty of time to get the letter to Mr. Kelly and be able to, go through the appeal process if you feel it necessary. And that is it for the regularly scheduled agenda this evening. I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes of the October 6th meeting, waive the reading.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and our next hearing is on November 24th, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all.